What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is your review for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 13 reunion part 2. Now, excuse me, I'm sorry. If I'm being honest, this episode was really pretty much a dud. The first, but that's usually how it is with the reunion. That middle episode is usually a dud. They stretch it out to give us 3 parts when it ain't. 3 parts isn't always needed. And I don't think this part was necessarily needed. It was very redundant. I felt like they kept repeating themselves over and over again and saying the same thing over and over again. So we start off, we have Dorit, Kyle, and Garcelle talking about how Kyle felt like Dorit could have given her more support last year. Garcelle tried to put in her little 2 cents. Dorit, snapped back at Garcelle and was basically like, listen, let me talk to my friend, okay? This is between me and my friend. Because Garcelle was like, girl, can you just say you were wrong sometime? She was like, Garcelle, I am going to defend myself when something isn't accurate, and I've apologized to you multiple times. Garcelle was like, girl, whatever, do you. But basically what Kyle was saying was that she would have wanted more support from Dorit. But whatever. Then they got on to Kyle's sobriety. I told you guys during the season, and I will continue to say it, even though it's not my business, okay? But I honestly do think it was a more... I do not think Kyle woke up one day and said, maybe I should stop drinking. I do think something happened. Do I think that Kyle was an alcoholic? No, that is not what I'm saying. Please don't start that narrative. I'm not saying that Kyle was an alcoholic. But I do think it was something more serious than just her wanting to make a change and so forth. They brought up the fact that people were saying that her cast wasn't very supportive of this, which I can agree with. I mean, they can try to twist it however they want. Well, no, we were just making jokes and we were this, we were that. No, y'all were kind of coming down on her a couple of times this season, and it wasn't just one person. It was multiple people. I get it. Kyle is the life of the party. We like the, we drunk Kyle and splits Kyle and all of that. But when somebody tells you that they stopped drinking and that they, they feel better and they're in a better headspace and stuff like that, even after Kyle had her whole breakdown at the weed dinner when she was just like, listen, drinking, I wake up depressed and I don't need to be depressed right now. I just feel like they could have been a little more sensitive to it. They brought up the fact her working out and her getting the tattoos and how they really thought it was more to it than just the drinking, and that's kind of why they kept bringing it up. But again, that may be true too, but she might have just been having a midlife crisis. I don't know. I mean, of course we know it is connected to something, but so then they started talking about, well, you just aren't sharing. Sutton was like, well, you're just not telling us what's going on, and you're not sharing, and you're hiding, and you're not telling us and baby, Kyle let him be known, and this is what I wish Candy would do more often, which she has a few times. Kyle was like, listen, I have been on this show for 16 years. Like, I literally started off with my daughter celebrating her 2nd birthday. She is now going off to college next year. Like, I have literally given you guys both of my sisters, my family, my daughters, my this, my that, my that. She was like, I think I have shared my life. And I think she has too. But I will say this, Kyle. I do think that you're very selective in what you share and how you share it. However, Kyle has shared her life. We're not going to sit here and act like Kyle hasn't given us anything. I mean, hell, she gave us both her whole dysfunctional family, right? But Kyle, we're not gonna sit here and act like you haven't had seasons where you just basically sat back and coasted and rode the wave. Like you really did. This thing with you and Mauricio, I see both sides of the coin. Like it was a very real situation that you were dealing with. She was like, in my whole adult life I've been married. So this is something that's really been hard for me to deal with, hard for me to process. But then on the flip side, I also get it that, listen, girl, you on a reality show. And here we are finding out after the fact how deep this really was and how much was really going on. And we do feel like you sort of kept it from us the whole season. Even when we asked, even when we were like, Kyle, it's more going on. Kyle, there's something going on. Kyle, what's going on with your marriage? And you sidestepped it and even sort of guilted us a few times when we were asking, like, why would you ask me that? Why are you assuming something's wrong? Why? Now, Kyle did say at the beginning when they were on that whole spiritual retreat at the beginning of the season, she did say that this has been the most difficult year of my marriage, which would allude to the fact that there was some marital things going on, without her getting to all the details. And Dorit was like, well, we didn't know what that meant. Girl, it was very clear what that meant. It meant that she was having some hard times in her marriage. Now, because she did, and I think the other thing is, Kyle is not admitting to, at least at this point, now they said in the reunion some things do come out, but it didn't come out in the first two parts. Maybe it'll come out in the third part. At this point, though, Kyle, I think the other thing that's confusing people is that there is no one reason. And sometimes there isn't. Sometimes relationships end and there isn't a big scandal or a major event. Sometimes stuff just, Boyz II Men said it best. Although we've come to the end of the road. I mean, really it was Babyface that said it. Boyz II Men sang it best, but neither here nor there. Sometimes it's just the end of the road, honey. So Sutton and Kyle went back and forth, child. Dorit in this whole robbery thing with Garcelle. Listen, as much as I like Garcelle, girl, you said it. It was a shady thing to say, and it was what it was. I don't, when she made the comment about Dorit still having all her jewelry, and, and Dorit was like, why would you say it? And, of course, Dorit is going to play the victim because all she's going to do is go back to that gun being in her face and her babies being there and her being home alone. Like, Garcelle, you don't win that. Like, it was a shady thing to say. I got a kick out of it. I ain't gonna lie. I put it in my review. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. It gave me a little giggle. But at the end of the day, girl, it was shady, and Dorit is gonna win that fight. I mean, she's gonna win that argument. Then Garcelle brought up the cell phone. She said, I think there's some things she said, I believe you were robbed, but I do think there was some things in the story that were a little weird. She was like what? She said the fact that they left the cell phone at your front gate because you asked them to. And, of course, they gonna defend it, right? Andy was like, well, I mean, they can trace a phone. And Erika was like, well, it's not impossible. And all Garcelle was saying was, look, I ain't saying that it's not impossible. I'm just saying it was a little shady. Like, it was a little questionable. Which it was. Because let me tell you something. Knock on wood, I know people who've been robbed and all. I ain't never seen nobody give a courtesy. Maybe it was Beverly Hills kind of courtesy. Maybe it was white woman Tia's courtesy. I don't know. But I ain't never seen the robbers give you no courtesy. She said, and then she gonna say, well, I told him that if he takes my cell phone, I have no way of calling my husband. Right. And you also have no way of calling the police. Like, why? Like, I'm sorry, what? And if Andy to be like, well, they can trace a cell phone. They sure can. And you know what else you can do? You can drop that cell phone out of the car. And you can run over it. You can slam the cell phone down and break it. Like, there are a lot of things you can do to stop them from being able to trace the phone any further than Dorit's front yard. Without giving her the phone back. Whatever, child. Dorit said that even though her and PK hit a rough patch, that they're in a much better place. Their marriage is in a really good spot. She said that PK stopped drinking and things have been better. Now, I feel like that whole sequence was really, really, really long, and Dorit was very, very long-winded because Andy stifled a yawn again. Although at this point, I think he's doing a bit. I think he's just going to find a way to yawn when Dorit talks because it's funny. He's done it the last two reunions, so I feel like he found a way to do it this reunion. But Garcelle said it. Andy said it. A couple of people made comments about how long-winded Dorit was during this whole segment and how she was giving these long-winded answers about her and PK and all the things that she had going on. But Dorit has always loved to hear her own voice, so whatever. Then we had Erika. Erika, just when I be trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, just when I be trying to work with you, Erika, you go right back to the bullshit. So Andy said, well, you met with some of the victims. Can you explain? Can you tell us why? She was like, I can't. Andy was like, you can't tell us why you decided to meet with some of the victims? She was like, no, I can't. Girl, you do know there's a whole documentary on Hulu with you meeting with the victims. And they showed us like a whole lot of, like, I know they didn't show us everything. Obviously it was edited, but you do know we saw the conversation. Like, what is it you can't tell us? Because we literally saw you do it. Like, I don't understand it. I mean, I don't get it. So then, And I understand it wasn't that the documentary wasn't out when they filmed the reunion, but you had to know it was going to be anyway. So then she said, so then Andy was like, well, did you learn anything through your conversation? And she was like, yeah, I learned that my paycheck was deposited into one of the victims' accounts. Once again, Erika, read the effing room. So you mean to tell me that because you've been living like whether it was directly or indirectly, you have been living off of these people's money for the past 10, 15, 20 years. And because your husband stole, I'm going to just say stole one of your paychecks and deposited it into one of the alleged victims' settlement account, probably as a way to try to put some of the money back that they were asking for so that he could continue this robbing to Peter Ponzi scheme situation he had going on. What was that supposed to make people say? And he was like, oh, so almost like the reverse of what they were being accused, what they were accusing. No, Tom still took them people's money. And Erika, for you to say that once again, I just feel like you're trying to find something. I don't know, girl. Then Andy was like, well, have you held on to any of your friends from the time you were married to Tom? Like, are any of those people still friends with you? She gonna say, him. Girl, what? So then they brought up the fact that he was found competent to stand trial. And Crystal was just like, I just find it interesting that, you know, as bad as you guys told us that he was 3 years ago, the fact that the court found that he was eligible to stand trial. And Crystal did go in a roundabout way to basically say that she didn't believe it. And Erika was like, Crystal, what you trying to say? Are you trying to say he faking it? I mean, if you saying he faking it, say that. And I was like, I feel like that's what she trying to say, Erika. But I mean, I'm kind of with her on it. Like, it is very suspect that 3 years ago you were like, he can't even remember his name, and now all of a sudden he's competent enough to stand trial. And again, if you saw the documentary, he flipping the bird to the prosecutor. And listen, these decisions are not made lightly. Like, they have doctors that come in, and I'm sure that Tom had all sorts of expert witnesses to say that he was totally out of it and all of that. And the fact that they said he was competent to stand trial, I don't know. Then we did Sutton's whole package. And I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like Sutton's package was the same arguments that go back to the beginning of this episode about Sutton talking to Kyle and Dorit about them basically insinuating she had a drinking problem, and why would they say that, and how detrimental that was, and how it hurt her feelings. And Kyle said, girl, you don't bring nothing to the show. All we know about you is that you bought a house and you got cashmere. And Sutton was like, that's very hurtful because I have a business and I just started a whole nother business, and that was just hurtful to me. So then they talked about the Magic Mike thing, and she said she did overreact and she did feel bad about it. She said that was the day she found out that her husband was like, I'm moving to London and so are you and so is the son. And Andy was like, but aren't you divorced? And she was like, yeah, but that's how much control. Like, my whole marriage, it was about whatever Christian said, I did. And for me to stay, that happened that day. So I was very upset and I couldn't really tell the girls what it was. But, I stood up to him and I said no. And I felt very empowered. And, that let me know that I had my own strength and my own voice. And, that I could stand up and I can push back. And then they talked about the elevator and how the Erika planned it. But it was just so convenient, But she did say she overreacted and that it was a lot going on as far as her ex-husband. And that's where a lot of that was coming from. Sutton, I like you, Sutton, but I'm just going to call bullshit on that. I don't think that, I think, girl, that you just was, I don't know. I think you was just being a prude and having a moment. I think maybe you were scared that Christian was going to see that and he was going to use that as a reason to take your son. I think that's what it was. I think it was connected to your son, but not in the capacity in which you're trying to say it, or connected to your ex-husband. They brought up the fact that she makes what her alimony is $300,000 a month. Baby, Anne Marie didn't say nothing this whole episode. And when I say didn't say nothing, I mean did not say nothing. If she did speak, it was edited out. Anne Marie was literally just a bump on a log. Okay, we did not hear her voice the whole episode. Now we barely heard Garcelle and Crystal, to be fair, but we didn't hear Anne Marie at all. So finally, Andy, I guess he felt like he had to bring Anne Marie in. Gonna say, Anne Marie, what do you feel about Dorit's Sutton's alimony divorce settlement? Girl, she gonna say, well, where I come from, people don't talk about money. I mean, I know a lot of really rich people, very wealthy people, celebrities, and we just don't talk about money like that. Sutton was like, I ain't put it out there. I just confirmed it. Which is true. They put it on the show, and Sutton was asked about it on Watch What Happens Live, and she basically just confirmed it. Girl, she wasn't out here bragging about her money. I mean, she does, but she didn't. You know what I mean? But anyway, we find out that Kathy is there. She doesn't come out yet. She comes out next episode. But we find out that Kathy is there. And that is pretty much the episode, child. With that being said, next week is part 3 where we have Kathy now. They show Kathy getting dressed. They show Kathy in the back. And basically, Kathy was like, listen, what I know about Kyle is that she doesn't do anything knee-jerk. And if her and Maurice are at this point where they're separated, this is something that Kyle has been thinking about for a couple of years. She said that she does know that things have been a little off between Kyle and Mauricio for a minute. But she said, but it wasn't really my place to really say nothing about it. But I noticed, I saw things. That's her sister. She would know, I guess. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I will talk to y'all later. Peace.